Hey, good afternoon everybody. It's about 12:45. And you know, I said this, as you can see up there, this is stuff I should have just talked about all together in one video, but unfortunately I don't have that limit right now of doing unlimited video time, if you know what I mean. But you know, this whole situation that's happened in the Science comic books as of officially this week at the end of 2:30, we've known about it for months. We've all had a clue about it for months. We pretty much figured out what was going to happen. Silhouettes and all that before the official cover was leaked and revealed from courtesy of Big Wayne Comics. We all pretty much had an idea. We wanted to speculate otherwise, but we pretty much had an idea. Now, there is a now I'm going to say this. I know that there is a portion of the fan base. There's two portions of this fan base. Actually, three portions. The one portion is the portion I'm in, which is basically not really acknowledging it. Basically, what I do is I take an issue like this, and even though this is open, I take an issue like this, and when I get it in the mail, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an issue like this, I'm going to put it where my comics are, where my current issues are, face down like this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take it like this, and I'm going to put it face down. So that way I don't have to acknowledge it or have to bother with it, because like I've said, I'm not doing any audio video reviews of current issues because I don't know exactly what to say. And that's one of my ways of just letting it pass and see what happens. Now I know that the other two portions of the fan base are probably going to still read the issues to see what happens. I know that there's a portion of the fan base that's like, yes, Sally's been turned into a robot. Yes, new character development. Yes, no more unnecessary romance. And probably some of them going like, yes, finally, Amy Rose gets to be with Sonic. You know, that's their choice to want to think that way. That's their freedom of choice to think that way. But then you got the other portion of the fan base, which some of you may say this sounds biased, but it's not. It actually kind of has a bit of truth in it. You have the other portion of the fan base that's a tiny bit, just a tiny bit bigger than that other portion, and even the portion I'm in. And that portion that's a tiny bit bigger is the portion of the fan base that doesn't like what has happened. They don't like it, and they are hoping to God Ian Flynn either gets fired or is removed from the comic. Because one, they feel, and even some parts of the, in some parts of the fan base that's for it, some of them, along with some, like I said, some of the portion of the fan base that's for it, all agree that Genesis was not that well done, and that it was overshadowed of what was going to happen afterwards, before and afterwards, basically. So here's the thing. This portion of the fan base, which is a tiny bit bigger, not only doesn't like what's happened, not only hopes that Ian gets removed from the comic, but this is a tiny portion of the fan base. This portion of the fan base, which is a tiny bit bigger, hopes, and basically some of them have said that the negativity, in fact this is from one person that's not at any of the Sonic sites that I've seen, but at the guywiththeglasses.com message boards in the comic book section there. He has said that if Archie Comics and Ian Flynn doesn't return Sally to the way she was, and we're not just talking, and he's not just talking, you know, just free her mind and all that, that the negativity towards them is not going to stop. It's not going to stop. Now, I've come out and I have said that a lot of what's happening in the comic kind of leads me to believe, and even though many have argued that it's not going to happen, but has led me to believe that we could possibly be seeing the end of the comic. I mean, for one, why would the editor-in-chief, if not the head writer himself, in one of the last pages, the Sonic Spin or whatever it is, why would they say that everything that's happening right now is going to lead to 250? Because that's all it is. All it is building up to 250. Now look, I can understand. I, along with all these fan bases, could probably agree in unison that we can understand you want to build towards another milestone issue. But you're having all this occur to the hero characters all at once, and it's like, well, wait a minute. Usually when they've built to an anniversary issue and they built it to be epic proportions, that it doesn't necessarily have to involve so many negative stuff. And especially when you say everything's going to be in a downward spiral. That doesn't sit well. When you say things are going to be in a downward spiral, when you say one of your most popular female and strongest female characters is going to be mechanized going forward, not giving a specific time frame though, it doesn't really sit well with anybody. Now, a portion of the fan base that's for what happened, still there's a portion of them that feels though, yeah, we're great, this happened and everything, but it's all going to lead to this. It's just going to be more about that. The fact of the matter is, overall, this whole situation not only has divided the fan base, taken the fan base that's a tiny bit bigger, a portion of the fan base that's a tiny bit bigger, and have them basically pissed off as hell, but literally, there's going to be literally, you have basically, as a head writer and everything, you have caused people not to believe a word you say. In fact, the same person that talked about the negativity not going away from Archie Comics and the head writer and all that and the editor will be far from over unless they do the right thing in the eyes of that person, and probably in the eyes of the fan base that's a tiny bit bigger in portion than the other part of the fan base, then I don't know what could happen. One person on one of the Sonic sites said that they would hope, Ian loses his job or gets removed, because apparently he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to do, and he's more like, hey, let's shock the readers. Oh yeah, you could shock the readers and everything, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do in the end? How are you going to fix things? How are you going to really make this believable? Get people on your side again. You can't get people on your side if you have a portion of the fan base, which is probably a bit bigger than the other portion, against you and wanting for you to be removed. And do you think, and does anybody think on either side, whether they're for it or against it, or in between, indifferent about it like I am, do you think any of us don't know that this is not just going to reach the folks at Archie Comics, that this is going to reach Sega? And I'm not just talking Sega of Japan, but also Sega of America. Do you not think they're going to get hit with negative letters? Of course they are. Of course they are. And I'm not saying that because I'm on the side that's against it. No, I'm saying that as a long-term experienced fan. Someone that has seen this happen before. And I guarantee you, whatever occurs in the near future, whoever the head writer is, if it's still Ian, they're going to have a lot to deal with. I mean, many fans on both sides, a lot of fans on both sides, have said they are not going to want to wait 20 issues just to see a resolve. They're not going to want to wait that long. It's ridiculous. To them, it's ridiculous and it's stupid. Again, fans like me that are in the middle were like, hey, we're just not going to deal with it. We'll still subscribe, we'll still buy the issues, but you know what? We won't read them. We'll bide the time otherwise. And and speaking about what happened with Sally, I've mentioned this briefly, mentioned this briefly in text, and I'll probably mention it again in text if I have to on some of the message boards. To me, the best advice, alright, and I gave this in a video, best advice is to go once a month with one episode of Sonic Sat AM, once a week with Adventures, Sonic X, and Underground, and that'll help you buy the time. That'll help you buy the time. And you know, when I'm talking about once a week with Underground X and Adventure, do one episode of Underground one week, one episode of X the other, and one of Adventures the next. And then, like I say, once a month, do one Sat AM episode, and it will basically pass the time. But that's not the only thing. What I should have also said in that video, and I mentioned this in text, and again I'll mention it in text as well, is we all remember, we can all recall the 222 cover, right? And how everybody drew Amy over Sally on that, right? Or drew Amy in Sonic's place holding, you know, holding Sonic and whatever. Here's the deal. Those same artists that did that, they could do the same with Sally's design before her mecha design. They could draw the design that fans are used to seeing over the mecha design so that it'll be like, okay, Sally's fine. I mean, it'd be like, all you'd have to do is draw this design over the mecha design, and there you go. It's like problem solved. And in that way, you could show it off to fans and say, hey, there you go. There's your Sally the way you know it. That's another way to pass the time. People have brought up other things, and I've brought it up too. You could write fan fiction stories. Hey, take a page off of what the fans did at Fans United for Sat AM. Take a page from their book and do a webcomic of how you feel things should have happened after 225, or how 225 should have gone and afterwards. I know that's a long and agonizing process, but hey, not agonizing, but a long detailed process. I shouldn't say agonizing, I apologize for that. But detailed process, I know it takes a while, but hey, fans would be more accepting of that, I guarantee you, on both sides, possibly, than they would be otherwise. And again, like I said, you can even write fan fiction of how you felt in text. You could type up fan fiction in text-wise, if you will, of how you feel 225 and afterwards should have gone. And again, it's it's all how you bide the time. And these are just advice and probably possible solutions to what you got to do. Heck, somebody said, heck, just go out and enjoy the day. Go out and see a movie. Or focus your attention on something else. That's a great suggestion and all, my friends. But what I'm saying, in all honesty, is this is just some advice. These are just suggestions. And this is just my overall thought of Genesis and 230. I didn't like I said, I'm not doing reviews, but from the reaction, this is my thoughts on the reaction of what's happened. So, comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. Do you agree with some of the things I said? And I'll talk to y'all later.